Section 7 of the Beekeeper Video Training Guide, and in this section we are going to focus on App Builder's advanced sections. The first section will focus on templates. So in Beekeeper we assign templates to our steps, saving a lot of development time prior to version 4.0 of Beekeeper. Rather than being driven by a How API, templates were usually hard-coded with AEM, which is short for Adobe Experience Manager, meaning that the client experience would have been very static and may have taken longer overall to build out an end-to-end journey. Progressing forward, Beekeeper now gives the users access to templates for their journey steps. For example, let's take the day one step. Since we did not select a template when we created it, we can click on Step No Template on the right hand side of the title to open up the settings section for this step. The last drop down menu should allow us to choose from CTA, which is short for Click to Action, and this will generate a Click to Action block or buttons, which of course can be populated from Beekeeper. And one other example of a template will be Simple Form. Does what the name says and generates a simple form which will automatically inherit the styles of a client's front-end application. Templates can also be edited through the template section of Data Editor, and once opening one or on opening one, it will allow us to code or copy code from another location into the coding canvas. In the near future, more and more templates will be implemented and ready for use. Okay, so let's move on from templates. Apart from creating a flow inside Beekeeper, inside our business features, we can go one level higher and create an application flow for our weather application. We should currently have at least 4 features available in this current project: send location, today weather, week weather, and photo competition. I mean, they even sound like they're in the right order already. Even every client using Beekeeper would have their own unique configuration, and they may need to use the application flow for much larger projects. To start, select the weather application in the directory, weather app, then click on the drop down showing default, and then you should automatically be taken to the settings page, enabling us to add a name and a description of this new application flow. On the left hand side of the settings icon, I can select which channel I want, meaning if I were to target this application flow for a retail environment instead of an online environment, we can do it here. We can also drag to connect using the UI tool, keeping the user experience consistent throughout Beekeeper, but let's leave the features disconnected for now. Let's leave the flow as default for now. Edit, then select the logic tab. Here we have something called a decision. With a business rule, we can conditionally navigate to a feature depending on if a rule is true or false. With a decision block, we need to explicitly specify 2 statements, one if the decision is true and one if the decision is false. Another thing, Beekeeper will not know which feature you want at the beginning, so we need to tell it by clicking on the 3 dots inside of the feature block. Simply clicking on the feature block itself to show the pane on the right hand side. We can then make the send location the starting feature for this application flow by simply selecting the start feature checkbox. We can only preview the application flow on the front end, as in the Beekeeper preview at the moment. We can actually see the application flow on a front end application. We can only preview the application flow on the front end at the moment, but that was just a conceptual look on how a client will utilize application flows. Here is the scenario. So if the current location is sunny for the user, we want to allow the user to go on and buy new sunglasses. So we'll send them to a new buy sunglasses feature. Or if the location for the user is not sunny but raining instead, we need to send them to another new feature called buy umbrella. For this exercise, you'll basically need to create 2 new features, buy sunglasses and buy umbrella. For these 2 features, you will not need to add any steps for now, but you can if you want to. And yeah, that's basically it for now. Alright, so I'll tell you how I solved this one. So the first thing I did was create a new feature called buy sunglasses, and then I created another feature called buy umbrella. I then visited the app builder section of the application flow. I created a new flow. I did drag the feature, look up weather to the canvas. I then dragged a decision block and then entered two of the statements, which is one will be true and one will be false. So if it's sunny, property isn't true, send the user to the buy umbrella step. So by doing that, the user will enter or not click on the checkbox, and then they'll be sent to the buy umbrella step. It'll be vice versa for is sunny. If is sunny or if the is sunny property is true, the user will select the checkbox and then we'll be directed to the buy sunglasses step. So the way we could do that in the application flow is by dragging to connect, similar how we drag to connect steps inside the feature. Based on the decision, we can connect where relevant. So we have two options to connect. Once you've added the decisions, the circle or the start connection point will be available. So you'll drag the first part of the decision to the buy sunglasses step if the decision is true. If it's false, drag the starting position of the second decision block or the second part of the decision block to the buy umbrella step. Once you do that, you have your application flow, or a very simple application flow where we can build on where we need to use it Blockly, or we can even add more decisions to it depending on how large our scenario is or how large our business application is. Apart from creating our own rules, we have something called external business rules, and these can be managed in the data editor section. As you can see, or once this video is almost over, we will explore the section by clicking on Data Editor, then going into the Rules tab. We can add new rules by copying and pasting, and you should be able to export. If it's not available now, it will be available in the near future. Business rules into our application. Here's an example. You may be familiar with the type of syntax, but we can also use external business rules alongside regular business rules with our create and our edit links. Okay, so now you're probably wondering, after building a significant part of our application already, how do we actually test it? I'm assuming that you're happy with what you created, as in you created your business feature, rules, steps, properties, and preconditions, and more. But the best way to do it before we actually integrate with our third-party API will be to test our current features. The best way to do that is to visit the version validate section of Beekeeper. And an essential part of creating an application by running tests. That way, we can use scenarios to examine how each step runs in a business feature, effectively testing the feature as a whole if we test every step inside that feature. Or with this testing option, we can actually test the Beekeeper feature itself. So let's create a simple scenario now. We are going to test the lookup weather step inside the weak weather business feature. So to begin, start by clicking on the Validate tab in Beekeeper, then select the Scenarios tab. You should have then entered the Property section where we can, of course, name it. You can name it if you're following along must look up weather. Notes can be optional, and then we can also select our current features that we have created in our application with we can select our current feature which we need, so it will be weak weather, and we can also select the step just as the same way we can select the feature. So inside weak weather we have lookup weather. We can also expire the data from the scenario here, but we don't want to do that now, so let's leave that deselected. So once you've done that, next select the definitions tab on the top right hand side, and now you should see something quite familiar to the code editor screen while editing a business rule. And this is basically the code block section where we can define our scenario. So the next exercise will focus on creating a simple scenario based on the send location feature. Okay, so let's have a crack on exercise 6, which is called testing your application. Now, I will post a slide with a link to a guide where it contains the keywords where we can use keywords inside our beekeeper scenarios for our testing. But for now, once you follow the video, I want you to create your own scenario. Again, with the weak weather feature, but we'll be testing the entire feature. Um, Basically, from once the user logs in to once the user adds a step. So this exercise is basically following along. So this is basically the exercise and the answer, which is a bit weird, I understand, but scenarios can get very flexible. I just want you to get familiar with testing or running a scenario.